Hey there, Taylor Elwood here, and welcome to the first live YouTube podcast of Sovereign Submission. Today, I want to talk about what happens when you don't share what you want. And I want to speak to this from my own experience. Because for a long time in my life, I didn't know what I really wanted. Or if I did know what I wanted, I wasn't operating from a place that was authentic. And it cost me a lot. And this is one of the reasons why I do this work with other men, because I want to help men, A, not make the same mistakes that I've made, but B, if they are making those mistakes, take control of those mistakes in time, because there is a high cost. And it's the kind of cost that can really derail your life. So, what happens when you don't speak up for what you want? Well, I'm going to start with telling you a bit about my second marriage. I got married for the second time in 2010. I had gotten divorced, and honestly, I got married way too early again. I got involved in a relationship way too early. I had gotten divorced the year before, and I had not really given myself the time to decompress or think about like the lessons or experiences that I'd learned from the previous relationship. And I'll admit, I got made my decision to get involved with that in that relationship partially from a place of fear. I was I was trying to make a go of being self-employed at the time, but I just gotten divorced from my ex-wife, my first ex-wife. We were still living together, and I was realizing, "Oh, I'm gonna have to look for work. I'm gonna have to figure these things out, and I don't know what to do." Instead of just doing the thing of being like, "Okay, I'm gonna have to find a job and just sort that stuff out and figure things out," what did I do? I got involved in a relationship with somebody who was legitimately more than willing to support me at the time. But, part of that relationship was motivated by fear on my part. And I don't say that from a place of feeling good about it, because I really don't feel good about that. Even now, I say it from a place of recognition. Like there was a shadow there. The shadow was that I wanted someone to basically take care of everything for me. And I didn't realize it, but that was basically my mother wound coming out at the time. But that also created additional problems. Initially, we were going into that relationship with the idea that we were going to be polyamorous. Well, what ended up really happening is that I I ended up abandoning myself because she decided about a year into the relationship that she didn't want to be polyamorous, and we hadn't really opened the relationship at that point. And there were reasons for it, but she made it into an ultimatum. And what I did is I ultimately abandoned myself and said and went along with it and said yes. And shortly after that, the our sex life became very manila, very vanilla, very boring, and it wasn't something I really enjoyed that much. And I didn't speak up for what I wanted. I shut down. I kept a lot to myself because I was operating from a place of fear, but also because I felt like if I spoke up for what I really wanted, I would lose that relationship and get abandoned. And I probably would have lost that relationship. And I didn't realize how I was, in a very real sense, letting my shadow call all the shots, my fears, my desires as well. Because what ended up happening is those desires ended up coming out sideways in my life. They came out sideways through porn, and they came out sideways through having sex with sex workers. And you know, it was me basically operating from a place of shadow and not from a place of ownership or responsibility. And I use this as an example. It may seem a little extreme, but this is kind of the reality of what happens with a lot of men. We don't speak up for what we really want in the bedroom. We don't speak up for what we really want relationally. We don't speak up for what our needs are or our longings are or other things. And then we find ourselves trapped in lives of our own making that feel really small. I stayed in that relationship for about 11 years. I was married for 10 of them, a little over 10. And what I came to really, what ended up happening is that on the surface, if you'd looked at the relationship, you would have thought it was a good relationship. But underneath, there was the rot. And the relationship was falling apart from the inside out. And what ended up happening for me is that I ended up denying my own fundamental truths. I denied the fact that I wanted to be in a submissive dynamic where I was the submissive. I denied the fundamental truth of being polyamorous instead of monogamous. I denied a lot of things for myself. I denied my desire to top people sometimes because I'm a service top as well. That relationship ended up crashing and burning during COVID. I got into an emotional affair with somebody, and I got into an argument with my wife one day, and it was just like, I'm done with this. I don't want this anymore. Ended up realizing the person I got into the emotional affair with was pretty crazy, so I stepped back from that and tried to work things out with my ex-wife, but her kids were kind of like, my stepkids were kind of like, yeah, we don't really like this guy. We don't think he's treating you well. And in some ways, they were right. I wasn't. And although we tried to work some stuff out at the end of the day, 6 months into that process, I kind of got to a point where I was suicidal. And I was ready to basically end my life because I realized, this is fundamentally going to be a problem. Unfortunately, I didn't end my life. I kind of instead ended up saying to her, I want a divorce. I don't think I can do this. I can't live in a household where I'm actively shunned by several people and there's no attempts to work through things. And the truth of the matter was, I still wasn't being honest with myself at the time. We got divorced, and shortly thereafter I was kind of like, what do I really want for myself? And I started thinking about that, and I'm like, I want to be in a polyamorous situation. I want to be able to be with multiple people. I want to love more than one person. That feels right to me. So I ended up really looking at that and reorienting toward that and starting to live my life more authentically. And it still took me a while to figure some stuff out. I got into several other relationships. And for one thing, I learned, I really need to slow down. So I started to, after I got into a rebound relationship. Yeah, see pattern here, right? Got into a rebound relationship within a few months of the second marriage ending. That rebound relationship crashed and burned, and I realized, wisely enough, I can't keep doing this, that there's something wrong here and I need to redefine my relationship with my masculinity. And that was a huge part of what I needed to do, because I wasn't in a good relationship with myself, and I wasn't in a good relationship with myself as a man. In a lot of ways, I was trying to basically be like my dad, even though I was also like, I don't want to be like my dad. I didn't even realize that until I started to unpack this stuff. Before I go on, I want to share with all of you that I do have a couple of resources for you. I have a free playbook called the Hard Conversations Playbook, which is all about helping you have the hard conversations that you've been avoiding in your life. And then I have an upcoming class called Speak So She Can Feel You, which is a class which is all about being embodied, regulating yourself and being in your body while having hard conversations. Because one of the things that I found is that I abandoned myself a lot of the time during these conversations that I would have. I would start to get into a hard conversation and I would avoid it because I was having trouble with it. And it really boiled down to I wasn't comfortable with being uncomfortable. So I would just numb myself out on video games, on porn, on sex, on other things, and not be real and honest with myself or with anyone else. And it cost me a lot. And I don't make excuses for myself because the impact on other people was just as bad. It cost other people too. It cost my second ex-wife. It almost cost her relationship with her kids. It definitely had an impact on those kids. And I sit with all that and I share it with you, not as a like, oh, look at me, like I'm this horrible person, or look at me, how much better I've become. I'm just sharing with you just kind of the reality of like what happens when you don't speak up for what you want, because there is a real world impact on yourself and on other people, and the consequences can be huge. I lost almost everything when I went through that divorce. Fortunately, I had a friend who gave me a place to stay. I took like 10 boxes of my stuff in my car, and my ex-wife was kind enough not to touch the inheritance I'd gotten from my dad in return for me not asking for alimony. Um, but it really just boiled down to I spent the rest of my life kind of I ruined a really good. I didn't ruin a really good relationship, but I ruined a relationship because I didn't speak up. And if I'd spoken up, we might not have worked out, but it would have been kinder because the honesty and the truth of it would have been better for her, would have been better for me, it would have been better for her kids. And this is what happens for a lot of men is they keep to themselves what it is that they need or they want or what they long for, and they do it because they think that they're keeping themselves safe and they think they're keeping the people in their lives safe, but what they're actually doing is being a very significant danger to themselves and to other people. And you don't want to be that way. So share that with you so you know what's going on in your own life and to take a good hard look at yourself. If you're a man who's watching this and you're kind of like, yeah, I've operated in shadow in some areas of your life, well, hey, guess what? You're not alone, first of all. And second of all, you can do something about that. You can turn it around. You can start to make changes. And yes, it's scary, but it's better to have those hard conversations and to be honest and real than to put yourself into a situation where you're like, well, I'm gonna keep from myself who I really am and what I really want. And I'm gonna keep it from other people because that way, at least I won't just rock the boat. Yes, you're gonna rock the boat. Yes, things will be a little scary and you may have some changes in your life happen. Better to do it in an authentic and in a way with integrity and honor than to continue to live a small life where you're unhappy on the inside, because it's just going to spill out anyway, and it's going to cause your relationship to end, but it's just going to be a massive flaming ruin as opposed to being in honesty and integrity and acting with kindness and compassion towards yourself and toward the people in your life. So that's my story for you today. I hope you find it useful, and feel free to comment below, share some thoughts. And if you want to sign up for the playbook or the class, go below into the show notes.